I found myself in that situation. And I felt the need to carry on the legacy because there's this prestige that comes when you hear people talk about like your generation in a certain type of way, like wow, I am the offspring of this person. Yes.
I think early on my surname is Alkali. That means judge. In my family, there's a long line of judges and lawyers. It's my great grandfather, I think, was the first Sharia judge in northern Nigeria. Sharia Islamic judge in northern Nigeria, Alkali Hamanjura, and Hamidu Hamanjura Alkali. And so there's just been a long line of judges and lawyers in my family. And so I kind of grew up in that culture, that whole embedded in it. I was born talking. That's what my mom said, talking and asking questions. And so it just came to me naturally. It's just something I found myself in.
When I was told this guy that handle this election tribunal cases, those documents are like what's it? Because you know that this guy actually rig the elections and he got there by rigging and doing battles. And the document is it all lies? Like what's the
That's what people think it's in. Even when they make up all these cases or you bribe the judge, for instance, you can't just rule the judgment in their favor. It has to make sense from a legal perspective. For instance, I think the last election they had, election tribunal case, I can't remember what section, I think section 3 or 5, where a wording, it was where you need, I think, 36 state and Abuja to qualify, but that and was stated that, Abuja was not necessary, and then that one tiny change.
Welcome to this episode. Today, I feature Bilkisu and Radiyah. Bilkisu and Radiyah are the literal definitions of who an academic weapon or what an academic weapon embodies. These two individuals are law students here at American University of Nigeria, and they're geniuses. I'll be exploring with them why they chose to study law, their motivations, and what they aim to do with the degree right after graduation. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did enjoy having it. Thank you and enjoy. So today I'm having two academic people, Radiyah and Bilkisu. Radiyah and Bilkisu have been law students, and I think you told you and you told you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, outside class. Did you come when I came or outside came?
I came.
Yeah, I think I came after you.
Yeah,
I was
after
like
you
a
did,
semester
yeah.
delayed, yeah.
That's when you're supposed to read.
Oh, it's finicky like that. It's just a one semester gap. Basically, whatever happens, my catalog states that I have to graduate by 2027. That's 5 years. So I have one semester difference compared to the end. So you just take summer classes and try and catch up.
So who suggested this thing later? I don't know why you trying.
I think it was your idea.
No, it wasn't.
You sure? You wanted us to wear.
Corporate.
Yes, and then I was like, I'm tired of the whole black outfit.
Actually,
Yes, I'm tired of it.
we're penguins at this point.
And then you said, oh, should I wear trousers? I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I already, okay, I think I already was wearing an abaya when we had the HS community television. I'm like, oh, well, let's go with that. Well, today we're going to talk about why they chose the career path they are in. They are currently pursuing law. Radiyah and Bilkisu, I seen them, they be like 2-3 times, like, who are these geniuses? They're very feisty and they embody the whole topic they're researching. I don't know how you guys do it, but limited contact with the piece of paper that you have. Everything was coming from within. And how many days did you have to prepare for the last debate? How many days were you given?
Not a lot of time.
Yeah.
The topic came in, but due to a bit of this here and there in the chambers, not a lot of time, honestly. We were just doing it as we went along. Points were changing. I think maybe 3-4 days. I think about that.
Yeah, we were given that much time, but I personally had a lot of things that I was doing, assignments and all of that, so I did not use the duration of time that I was given. I would say I used a day to come up with it.
I agree with you there because I remember right before that I had another club meeting scheduled an activity. It was that day we finished the pre-planting event and I still hadn't had my points by then. And it was like 3 hours to the debate. I was like, all right, then let's lock in. What are we going to say? Because I was scared coming up against you and Sadi. I was, oh my goodness.
The topic was international law of the supersede national law, right?
Yeah,
In human rights violation.
And you were for?
Yes.
And you were against?
Yes, yeah.
So let's read that for that. So first of all, let's have it. Why law? Why do you choose law?
I think early on my surname is Alkali. That means judge. In my family, there's a long line of judges and lawyers. It's my great grandfather, I think, was the first Sharia judge in northern Nigeria. Sharia Islamic judge in northern Nigeria, Alkali Hamanjura. and Hamidjo Alkali. And so there's just been a long line of judges and lawyers in my family. And so I kind of grew up in that culture, that home, embedded in it. I was born talking. That's what my mom said, talking and asking questions. And so it just came to me naturally. It's just something I found myself in.
I would say the same because, I mean, we have similar storylines. Well,
My grandfather was a Sharia law, okay.
Not Sharia law, but it's a generational thing. My grandfather was like a justice. And growing up, when people hear my son name Akomi, the first thing they ask is, are you Justice Akomi's granddaughter? And then things follow. Oh my God, he was such an impartial judge. He was this, he was that. And it goes beyond that. A lot of his kids are lawyers, the grandkids as well, aspiring lawyers, some are lawyers as well. So I found myself in that situation. And that, I would say, it was more of like an influential thing. Yeah.
Did he tell you guys, did your grandparents tell you guys any stories about their time? Like people planning to develop today or all these good things?
Yes, actually. Yes, and that's what like distinguished him. He wasn't, again, I would use the word impartial because he did not accept a lot of what other people accepted. So it just made him like stand out. He told me stories of how, people would come to him and tell him like, oh, please, can you smuggle me in or something? Yes, and then he was like, he would tell them upfront, he's not doing that because that is not who he is. So he was true to his morals, I would say.
What does smuggle mean? What does it mean, smuggle money?
Like, favor. That's what I mean. Can you favor me? Yes. Even if you know that you are in the wrong. Yeah.
I think for me, it was my great-grandfather, so I never really met him. And my grandfather also, I know, was a man that was well-known and loved, but he died, I think, when I was 2. And so I never really got to interact with them in that sense, but I would always hear stories about them. Stories about how they would put me on their lap and just tell me stories about their ancestors. And because it's interesting how if you talk to any Fulani matriarch or just elderly person, they will tell you the entire history of their generational life, back down to their great-great-great-grandfather. Also, they tell me stories about where they came from, who they were, the things they've done, and it just built up this, I think, image in my mind of who I wanted to be and what values I wanted to have. That was me.
So you're Fulani too?
No, I'm Yoruba.
I told you it's only what Akambia.
No, it's actually Akambia.
But apart from your grandparents, like, is there any particular event that your experience of the impartiality or whatever that reinforced your drive, your decision to continue in law? With just your grandparents?
Not exactly. Aside him, my dad is a lawyer as well.
You're like a third generation.
Yes, my dad is a lawyer as well. His siblings are lawyers. His nieces and nephews, my cousins, are lawyers as well. So I just feel like I found myself in that situation. And I felt the need to carry on the legacy because there's this prestige that comes when you hear people talk about like your generation in a certain type of way, like, wow, I am the offspring of this person. Yes.
How many siblings do you have?
2.
You guys are 3 altogether?
Yeah.
2 girls, 1 boy?
No, 2 girls and a boy and a guy.
Wait, so that means your oldest? Are you the oldest?
No, I'm the second.
So you're first?
Yeah.
So do you know too?
No. I'm the only one that's taking that part. My younger one is not. Yes.
I think in my case it's also similar to yours, but more in the sense that in terms of impartiality with my parents. You know how sometimes you hear stories of parents favoring their children, it's like, no, absolutely not. It's from the get-go they stood by their values. It was, if you mess up, that's fine, we're there for you, but you will take accountability for it. You will make right by it, and we will not favor you just because you're this or that. Like in certain situations where something would go wrong, and in school maybe, and everyone would be called up to be held accountable. And the first thing my dad would say is, what did you do? Where did you go wrong? Tell me from your mouth. Where did you go wrong? What did you do wrong? How could you have done better? And then I would get my share of the blame and my consequences for my actions and everything. They were very impartial. It was, you are my daughter and I love you, but actions have consequences and you will learn that.
It's so funny and surprising how Turkey embodied your grandparents and parents had. I don't know. My dad is a survivor. No one in our family was 6. Lot of us. Oh, I don't know. Probably, I don't know. But then, why do you keep working hard even when you get stuck? Because I know it's not easy to read all those pages and papers and pages and pages.
I would say I'm a very determined and good living person. If I want to do something, rest assured that I'm going to do that. I feel like I have this mentality of I've already gotten into it, so I must get to the finish line regardless of how tough it gets. And I just feel that at the end of the day, there'll be this satisfaction that comes with it. So, yeah.
I think honestly we're too similar in that regard. It's also my mom says I was born talking, asking questions. It's that curiosity. I've never found law to be something difficult. I've always been interested in everything, learning about as much as I possibly can. So law for me is like a passion, a hobby. Something that innately is. When you find out, for instance, in some jurisdictions you don't actually own your dead body, things like that are interesting. Yeah.
So who wants it? Your dad?
Yeah, sometimes no, the government. It depends on jurisdiction, but things like that, it just drives your motivation and passion. It is, and it's if I want something, come hell, come high water, I will have it. The devil be damned, I will have it, no matter what it takes. I want it, and it will be mine. It's essentially that.
Well, before we started, you guys were showing me about the baby that gave a tribal mark on the face. Are those the kind of human rights issues that triggers you and makes you people on the what kind of human rights issues spur you on like, what's this? I have to go change this.
I think for me, there isn't really a category. As humans, we have an innate sense of justice and fairness. Anything that triggers that, anything that I feel is unjust, or as the common reasonable man with good conscience would feel is unjust, I think that triggers me. That is triggering because you took away their choice. You did something, imposed something unwillingly on a person too young to consent. Anything of that nature, I think. The killing of people, the stealing of land, anything that violates one's innate right and justice, I think is triggering in a sense.
Radiyah, do you think we all have an innate sense of justice?
Yeah, I would say so.
So the terrorists on the field, they're doing right things, right?
They're doing right things?
The field, they're doing right things.
No. In what sense?
But if humans have an innate sense of justice, and when I'm bombing you and killing your family as a terrorist, as a Boko Haram, I feel like I'm doing what's right. So I'm just.
No, innate sense of justice, I think that's a general thing. Even, fun fact, we don't have a definition of law. It's too broad and encompassing. I think justice is very subjective, but generally we do. You don't feel you're doing something wrong because you think you are on the right side of history. And even though I think you were to bomb, terrorists do feel remorse and guilt. Maybe not the way they should, but that's why some soldiers are traumatized. That's why they come home with PTSD and guilt. And you still do feel awful at the taking of one's life. Or even if you don't, if someone on your side died, you would feel gutted because someone that you cared for died. That made sense of justice. They were robbed.
Is that justice or familial?
I would say a lot of people that engage in these acts are not even in their right state of mind to realize that, what they're doing is wrong. They do these things out of, I don't know, they engage in a lot of things that they don't even come to terms like, what they're doing is wrong. I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from.
Like they buy into the tribe. Yeah. For example, Osama and the whole. What was his terrorist organization? Osama bin Laden. ISIS, good. So when they buy into what the leader is saying, who can think, you don't think it? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Or no, the people that are doing the thing exactly like they engage in different type of maybe like drugs or something that you don't even realize that come to terms like they're not in the right state of mind to realize what they're doing to somebody is wrong.
They're not just that, but like the basis of human psychology exploited. Humans are pack animals. You're given like this shared goal. They don't paint it as fairly and objectively. We can see the wrongness of it because we're standing on an objective field. We haven't been brainwashed like they have, which is what they have been done.
Okay, wait. How would you now conflict this? Say, within man, good and evil dwells in the heart of every man, right? So every human will exert evil when they can. So how do you balance this with justice? Because now, for example, there was a research that it was carried out in a school, I think it was in America, and because they wanted to know if people like us, who claim to be enlightened, would do the same thing that Hitler's guys did during the World War II, send people to the concentration camp and burn them up. And they got a few students, and they made them prison guards, right?
Yeah.
And they were worse than the people employed. Yes, the Stanford experiment. So How do you balance that with justice?
A bit of correction on that, actually. There's a misconception that the Stanford experiment was impartial. There are actually a few issues with that as an experiment. The scientists heavily influenced the actions. Initially, they weren't getting the kind of reactions they thought they were getting. And so the scientists encouraged them essentially to act a certain way. That was, you have to look into that because that's the truth of the Stanford experiment.
But they did then act in their own volition.
No,
If I encourage you to do something and you don't feel good about it, would you do it?
Not just
Was there like an ounce of threat, or it was just
threat. The whole situation, I guess, was manipulated, and some of the detail was also changed. It's not like as free as and impartial, as clear and concise as people think the experiment was. But to get back to you, yeah, being enlightened doesn't mean you wouldn't do the horrible things other people you condemn would do. They did it for a reason. I think to be human, we have certain base traits that can be exploited, that can be used. If you believe you're doing something for good, no matter where you stand, you would do that thing, you pursue it. We can judge because we are on the outskirts of history. We can look and see that you did something awful. They really can't. And it's not an excuse per se, but when you're sat there and given an option to defend your family, these monsters, these demons are killing their people, you would do the same thing.
Well, no one was killing the family of the Stanford experiment, guys. They were exact evil because it was fun. It's fun to torture. Sometimes when you're... Have you know, like, being just had on before, you just feel like sending someone to the road is a car hit here. Don't you fantasize about such things? So, like, good and evil justice is a very gray line. I don't know.
It is. No, when I referred to the killing, I was talking about the Hitler situation and the whole program they had for their soldiers, not necessarily the Stanford experiment. But yeah, you're right about that.
Well, you initially say that law doesn't have a central definition, so there are different perspectives. But then, what strengths and qualities do you bring to the legal field? Because since we can't define what law is, what's
I think my curiosity and innate desire to learn. A problem we tend to have in this modern day era is people are very specialized in their field. As a lawyer, you cannot be that. I think I interned somewhere and the person said, as a lawyer, you must have your hands everywhere, in every field. As a person, I'm naturally curious. I want to know as much as anything. I took chemistry, I think, as my lab course because I was interested. What's this about?
Did you do? You do?
I did. I got an A minus.
Wow, academic response.
I think the strength I bring is my natural curiosity and just it helps because you form connections and you see patterns that people who are specialized in one field can't. It gives you a perspective holistically. That in mind just drive. I want this. I will have it.
Radiyah, what are your strengths?
As for me, I would say adaptation. As Bilkisu said, law is very universal and there are so many subsets under it. So I feel like I have the ability to adapt to whatever it is that I find myself in. Like I'm very open to, exploring different things, like Bilkisu said, she took a chemistry course. I took a psychology course. It's not in relation to my major. But out of that curiosity, like, I would want to, expose myself to different things, and I got an A. So yes, aside that, determination as well. I would keep going and going and trying.
Keep moving.
Yes. Whatever topic gets, yes.
Oh, psychology is related to your field, genuinely, because if you're a judge and you're seeing a criminal, this guy is a thief by his body language. You just see how he's answering questions. You can feel it.
Yeah,
There's
but
something
it's not a
off.
requirement. Like I took it as a free elective.
Yeah, but then it's related to your field.
Oh,
To help you spot the criminals and the people who are saying the truth. I think
Not
all
just
this.
that, but like when you have to interview witnesses, it's a bit of a shady tactic, but we have to put people on pressure. What you can do to put people on pressure, get them to admit to certain things, just when you're interviewing witnesses and talking to them, that's where it helps.
I've noticed most people who watch my videos are not subscribed to this channel. Subscribe so we can grow this tribe together. So, how did you mentally and emotionally prepare for your last debate? Should international law be regarded much more than national law? How do you make it?
I think obviously I did as much research as I could possibly do. I think the mental aspect is this isn't my first time debating. I'm very confident in myself when it comes to debating.
Yeah, you debated psychology. Sorry, therapy is not necessary.
But yeah, so I wasn't worried about stage fright or anything like that. That wasn't a worry I had. It was just what points could I use to refute. I was more concerned about what the other opposing team would be saying. And so I tried to put myself in your headspace. When you all mentioned the whole issue of the United Nations and how there are 5 permanent secretaries, we predicted that. I knew that would come up. I was hoping it would not. And when it did, we were sort of taken aback and we just had to adapt to that. I think just coming at it from we can get anything from you and we just have to think on the spot. That was mostly it.
I was a judge there. Who won? Was it your group who had?
Yeah.
So the people who were for
Yes.
international law should be did win.
Yeah.
So why did you guys lose?
Based on the judges, right?
I was part of the judge. I want to know.
Yes. I heard that it was our rebuttal that let us down, which I believe so because both groups had cogent points. They were very strong. Like that was my first time debating Heir.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You did so well. Wow.
But prior to that, I've always been involved in debates. Right from primary school, secondary school, I've always been involved in it. So it wasn't something that was new to me. It was something that I was already accustomed to. But then my fear was, again, I had such good opponents that I was skeptical about what they might possibly bring on. But yeah, I learned that rebuttal was where the issue was, where we fell short, which I mean is something that would most definitely work on it eventually.
So, but did you need to like put yourself in a particular headspace to get out there, like, you know, I'm a champion?
As I said, this is not something that has been new to me. Like I am used to it. I have been doing it for the longest time. So it's not something that I had to mentally prepare for. Yeah.
Were there some moments when you felt like you're empathizing with your opponent position?
Yeah, most certainly, because when you have a debate, like it's not like a particular team does better. Like both teams have exactly what it's like a coin. There are 2 sides to it, 2 stories to it. But it's just who can deliver their points more and who can, convince the judges and the crowds better. So most definitely, there are points that they brought out that were really strong, and I was like, this makes so much sense. So yeah.
So what were the most challenging parts of defending your position, your your own ideas? Like,
Can you come again?
what was the most challenging part of defending your own position, like your respective ideas between you and your teammates?
I would say the most challenging part was the topic had to do with international law superseding national law. But in reality, like international law cannot per se supersede national law in the sense that national laws are basically laws that control within the borders of like a country. International law is only there to serve as a check to these laws. They're only there to supervise. They're only there to say, okay, should this be done? Should this not be done? But regardless, it cannot overshadow like the national laws that are peculiar to the territory. So yeah, coming up with the points to say like, oh, national law should supersede. Yeah, that alone was difficult.
You know, one thing in debates is that sometimes you don't genuinely believe what you're.
Well, you know he wants to argue. Well, definitely.
So, do you really believe that national laws supersede international laws?
I wouldn't say so. I can't say that.
Think about Hitler, right? And what he did.
Yes, I wouldn't say that national laws are only there to, govern within the territory. But there has to be like, how do I put it? There has to be like a superior law. And international law, like the basis of it is like universality.
Yeah, just like a slight correction. The topic wasn't international law superseding national law, but in cases of human rights violations. I feel that's important because otherwise I don't think international law as it is.
Given the debate topic, what are your personal views on the power dynamics between national and international law, particularly when human rights are at stake? For example, how you mentioned what Hitler did in this during World War II. So what are your personal views on power dynamics between national and international law?
I think, as is in theory, every national law is based off of the universal. In terms of human rights, it's based off of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That is the original ground norm, the source of it all. I think in terms of application, things get very, very, very messy because international law, you have multiple interests at play, multiple countries all trying to take a stake. I think a good point they brought up was in the case of Israel versus Palestine, where there were a lot of violations and the national community did nothing. They didn't step up. I think the US vetoed a decision.
You mentioned like the 5.
There is the 5 and how it all resembled a dictatorship. I think in theory it is a good idea to have, but in application it becomes very, very messy because humans, or at least the countries that you have, when it is a country that you don't support per se or oppose, that is in danger or in need of help, for instance, or its people, you would not be, or they would not be necessarily, I think, motivated to go provide any aid. For instance, I think the US is kind of not too keen on opposing Israel at the moment. They need their resources. They need the things Israel provides. So, in
And Israel is
application,
the only democracy in the Middle East, right? So
only democracy in the
yeah,
Middle
that's the
East.
only real democracy in the Middle East,
Exactly.
and the only real capitalists. They copy lots of Western values, the Israelites, right? So American can't let them go. They're the most genuine partners fundamentally in both their values, their principles, the society, how they govern themselves.
Mostly resources. Mostly
What type
resources.
of resources? What sort of
I
resources?
know chips. I think
Chips
the
is from Taiwan.
no what is it that there's something Israel provides. I don't think I can remember, but there's something Israel provides that I think America needs. Birds. I know as a world power, it's not really strong in military, but in terms of intelligence and all of that, Israel is
The
very.
Jews are very smart people. They run most of the companies. Well, okay. Earlier, we're talking about how there is no universal definition of law. So, do you think there's a universal definition of justice, or justice is peculiar to each individual society? Is there a universal definition of justice?
I would say the being of law is lies within justice. For any country that has a standard legal system, justice is meant to be administered regardless of culture, regardless of other
According to
circumstances.
that country's legal system.
Yes, if you when you have a country that operates with a standard legal system, justice has to be administered because that is what the whole judicial system should be about. So regardless of culture, regardless of other circumstances, like that has to be enforced.
But what's justice? Like, if we should define it, like, I want to know, because justice here in the country, example, here in Africa, the age of consent is 18, right? In Nigeria, if you go to China, it's 14. So you see where I'm
I
going to
do.
now.
I do. I'll go back to there's an innate sense of justice, or like a general concept of justice, but it varies in specifics. Oh, if someone dies, if someone is robbed of their life, that's not fair. But what are the nitty gritty? I think that depends. That varies depending on state to state, and we can disagree with that depending on where we're coming from. For instance, how in Africa we're against LGBT, or in Nigeria specifically we're against gay rights and all of that, but that's seen as unjust in other countries. I think what is just specifically, at least with the way the law operates, is very, very finicky and varies heavily. The best thing we can do as lawyers or as legislators is define what is just according to their standards of our society and hold by that as closely and as tightly as we possibly can. But law must evolve. As the society evolves, law must also evolve. So as our notions and principles changes as a society, our laws must also reflect that. Else we are in danger.
But regardless of anything that must be reflected, it must amount to equality, it must amount to fairness. Because that's like the whole concept of justice. It has to be equal, it has to be fair, no matter like whether it varies in like different communities or like.
Okay, so basically, you're saying that justice is subjective to each society. Now we're getting to the under as that you see you have to look at the nuances of the case. Now, how do you consider balancing the ethical and your moral standpoints of each individual specific situation or the crime they committed to what the law says should be done?
I think one cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. As a lawyer, my job is to, depending on what the law states, I must hold by that tightly.
Regardless of how you feel.
Regardless of how I feel, because once you start putting personal prejudices in play, that's when you have serious issues. A judge, for instance, that feels it's unfair, I don't know, a 40-year-old man get charged for pedophilia because he married an 18-year-old man because he did the same. That's personal prejudice. It is not my place to decide what is fair and what isn't, as odd as that may be.
Well, okay, this is the law. These are your moral convictions and your emotions. But how do you not then balance this? Because how do you balance that in some sort? I was watching a movie on Netflix once, and this policewoman caught a man who was a criminal. I can't remember what he did specifically, but then his daughter wrote a letter to the policewoman and said, "Please don't arrest my dad. he's so lovely. He buys me donuts, etc. And the little girl, 8 years also, and the woman, like imagine a child writing that to you, and she decided to let the man go. And about 6 months later, the man killed someone.
Yeah.
And ever since that event, she vowed that she would never let anything as a potential emotion influence what she should do. Now, I brought this. I'm painting this story to reflect on you as an individual when you get to start enacting the laws. How would you balance it? Because this is a very, very gray area.
It goes by that. I think enacting, I must clear up a misconception. As lawyers, we don't legislate. We just, again, interpret. We defend based off of what the law says. We cannot dictate what is if the law doesn't agree to that. So I think the only conflict of interest is supporting someone that morally goes against something you hold by. And in that case, you can choose not to take the case. But you can decline. There's a conflict of interest. However, in instances like this, where the woman, I think, let the man go because of alleged. I think he must be ruthless to an extent.
Because of what?
Because of the letter his daughter sent. The instance you brought up. I think you must be ruthless to a certain extent. Not ruthless as in you will be cruel and no, it's you must do what needs to be done irrespective of how you feel. You owe a duty to the world. You must administer justice, how the people or how the laws see justice be fit.
Radiyah, do you have a different view from this?
No, I do not, because adding to what she said, the law states that if you have interest in a case, you can choose to decline it. You can choose to not take the case. So if you have a situation where your moral values would conflict with what the law states, then it's best that you do not, take up the case to avoid any form of misconceptions and all of that.
But the money there is huge. Like,
Akwachuku, there's discipline.
Yeah.
Radiyah, 100 million
No,
naira.
I'm serious. If you are disciplined enough to not want to dabble into messy things, then
to add to that, not just money. If money is your guiding moral compass, I don't think you have an issue with anything else that comes up. It depends who are you as a person. Money is what you're chasing after. You would defend the lowest of the low.
95% of lawyers are chasing after money.
I don't deny that. What I'm saying is, how do you balance that conflict, your question, with your moral interest? If your moral compass is money, you will defend vermin, and if you can look yourself in the eye,
other people would do it, but would you do it?
Okay, how about the lawyers and the judges who are taking up the election cases in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's up to them. That's what they choose to do. It's wrong, yes, but that's what they choose to do. I know people that would have been involved in like fraudulent activities and all of that, where they would have made cool cash, like they would have made big money, but they refuse to take up these cases, which I feel I would do in my case, because I just feel like that would be the right thing to do. Like, okay, I have my morals and standards that I would want to conform with at any time. So why would I go against it for money?
Okay, let's say your son is dying and is desperately need of a heart transplant, and for you to get a heart transplant, you need about 100 million.
God forbid forever.
Wait. Leave God forbid. Let's face reality.
Okay, yeah.
And then a fraudulent case caused by, and they offer you 410 million naira. Radiyah, we need to take that case. Your son is dying in the hospital. You have like 3-5 days, and you just got the case. We need to take the case.
I think there's every other way to go about it. Why would I?
You let your son die?
No, to add to that, Akachuku, what you're doing is you're nitpicking specific instances. You're going to extreme. That's
Because
a fallacy.
this is a human condition.
No, yeah, but that's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a fallacy where you're picking specific instances.
Define
to support
fallacy
your
specifically
point.
as a
Fallacy.
context.
In this context, it's I think a failure in reasoning or
Not being
improper
logical.
logic or reasoning, like a conclusion driven by improper or I think leapways in logic and reasoning.
This is not fallacy. This is real life.
It is a
What you're doing right now is you're picking specific extreme instances to support your point,
But they do
which
happen.
I see. No, it does happen. And there's this quote that says, it's easy to have high morals when you don't have to defend it. You don't know. I hopefully to God, she never is put in a position like that.
Yeah.
It is easy to have high morals if you don't have to defend it. Hopefully she's never put in a position like that where she has to face that decision. But you bringing that up, I think, is just trying to force the narrative.
No, I'm not putting narrative. I'm just trying
but that's what you are.
But okay, if you are put in that position.
No, but that's what you're doing, Akachi.
Okay, wait, no problem. Let's assume that's what I'm doing, or that's what I'm not doing.
But then, if that's the case, then you accept that
when push
you
comes
are.
to shove, your son Bilkisu needs a heart transplant, and the heart transplant costs 100 million naira. and you have a fraudulent case where they're offering you 110 million and your son has a few days to leave, would you take the case or not? That's the question.
Do you
Forget
want me?
fallacy or no fallacy.
No, but that's important.
No, would you take the case or not, Bilkisu?
Do you want me to be honest?
Yes.
Yes, I would. No,
Huh.
no, but let it be put out there. What you're doing is you're providing extreme instances to support your point. That is a flaw of reasoning on your part. That is not how a proper conversation is to go.
Okay, well, these are lawyers, so we expect some bad rules. Okay, what do you think are the most significant human rights issues that face Nigeria today, and how can you go about addressing them? So let's start with listening to human rights issues.
There are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. But if you want us to like be specific or mention a few at least, I would say wrongful convictions. Lack of access to like judicial resources, child violations, gender rights equality,
You mentioned four. You started with talking about wrongful convictions.
Yeah,
Then you started with access to judicial.
yeah,
Then child violation and gender equality.
yeah.
So okay, no, I don't. The first one is obvious. Let's start with the second one. The one you mentioned about access to judicial. Vanessa Yashim, she graduated I think, a year ago, or 1.5 years ago. Her paper was on. She sent it to me. Getting this is not verbatim, but basically had to do with getting access to the law via outside the court. What was it called again? In legal terms.
Alternate dispute resolution.
Yes, something like that. So because most people can afford in Nigeria, can afford the lawyer,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
So this has to do with you, both of you. You have to keep offering pro bono service, and you're not be able to feed your family if you want. Law is it's expensive actually to
Very
get a lawyer to fight for you until the end.
Yeah.
So where do you come in? You keep dashing people advised. You defend people free of charge. You have your own needs, you have your own ones.
I'm not sure of the exact system, so I apologize if I'm misquoting, but I think in some countries what happens is every public court system, I think you have the option of getting a public trial lawyer, like someone to advocate for you. I'm not sure how it works. Is it you work in the civil sector and then if there are trial cases happening and someone cannot afford a lawyer, they request your services and it's paid for by the state and the government. Nigeria should have a system like that. I think in paper they do, but it is often not applied properly, as is the case with Nigeria.
So where do you come in?
Where do you come in? That's the thing. I'm not too sure of the system, so I cannot speak on this specifically, but I believe how it works is you work in the civil
I mean,
sector.
like, where would you come in to address that issue? Like Bilkisu, where would
pro
Bilkisu
bono
come in?
services?
Yeah, like, how do you make access to legal services easier so people not be wrongfully convicted?
Oh, I think educating people. There's this whole notion that you have to go to school and this and that and that and this to know the law. I think a problem in Nigeria is people really don't know their rights. They have no notion of their rights. And there's this really fun thing, thankfully, because of modernization and all of that. There's this channel, Legal.
Channel what?
Legal. Essentially, he's an American lawyer and provides his take on laws or issues, like legal take on laws or issues happening in America. And through that, you just get educated. You learn about different jurisdictions, what their policies are, things like that. Something as simple as having a YouTube channel, educating people like, oh, did someone stop you on the road, like, and demand you pay 100K? Guess what? You have the right to ask for under what section of the Constitution or written law you are being convicted for. Just things like that. Educate the masses. Let them know that they have rights. Raising awareness through different mediums.
This is a major point you just mentioned because when I had the 3 law students last semester, 2 law students and 1 NES, Titi, Mimi, and Didi. Mimi mentioned her full name is Ngomimi Koda. That's her legal name. So Ngomimi talks about how she wants to go out there and start a TikTok because most people don't know their right. And this is really true. Like, someone recently told me these were 2 law students who came from the law school. They were writing their bar exam. I think this was on Friday. And my twin sister is the lawyer, so she's telling me how difficult it is. But well, this lady told me that if you consent to having someone shoot a nude video with you, there are 2 different consents here. You agree to him shooting, you didn't agree to him sharing. So if he shares that, you can sue him. And I really didn't know that because I thought agreeing to have this first of all filmed is that you're going to have it being shared because when you're filming something, really, what do you want to do with it? It's sometimes personal but most times to share. And there's just little things like this that you don't really know. And well, with this now, back to the previous. If I now know that this is wrong, and I don't have the money to sue the person, how will I go about it? I've noticed most people who watch my videos they are not subscribed to this channel. Subscribe so we can grow this tribe together. Because I feel genuinely that the law is kind of impartial in the sense that the big guy always wins most of the time. Imagine someone like me facing someone like Elon Musk or Dangote or Atiku, or you trying to sue Aaron. They have the money, they have the lawyers, they have.
That's where the whole wrongful conviction comes in, which I personally believe needs to be reformed. Like you have people that are convicted for crimes that they do not even. That's why if you go to like prison services and all of that, you see people that have been detained for what they did not even do, and they're literally there. They don't know when they're coming out. They don't know how to get out of it, and it's just sadly.
Yeah, in Nigerian law and international law, we can see that the law is really rigid. Especially Nigerian law specifically. Where do you think there are rooms of reforms like improvement? I just give one case study for where you feel the law should be improved, like its rigidity should be kind of lessened.
Funny enough, I don't think it's the rigidity of the law that's the problem. I think it's the flexibility of those implementing the laws or interpreting the laws. The laws, a funny thing we always say, I think, in the law school of law is that Nigerian laws are quite impressive. They're quite specific and span across almost every area you can imagine. They are beautifully made. Well,
Because they were copied. Because we were copied. We're not that creative.
no, that is for a debate for another day, but fair enough. But yes, as they are, as they stand, they're quite useful. The problem is in the application, like you mentioned, someone getting convicted for 10 years because they stole 200 naira or loaf of bread. That is unconstitutional. There's a certain limit of time you can be convicted for without trial, in which you have to be, I think, pardoned or released. So it's not the rigidity of the law.
So it goes back to the people that are implementing
the flexibility of those implementing and interpreting the law.
I used to always wonder about all these guys that handle these election tribunal cases. Those documents are like what's it? Because you know that this guy actually rig the elections and he got there by rigging and doing battles. And when a judge, not even like one, 3 or 4 of them will pass the people that same guy. I understand that the state is paying them or the president, wherever. But in that their big 1,000 page document, is it all lies? Like what's the
That's what people think it's in. Even when they make up all these cases or revive the judge, for instance, you can't just rule you can't just rule the judgment in their favor. It has to make sense from a legal perspective. For instance, I think the last election they had election tribunal case. I can't remember what section. I think section 305, where a wording. It was where you need, I think, 36 state and Abuja to qualify, but that and was stated that Abuja was not necessary, and then that one tiny change. You have to find loopholes. Even if you want to win, you must find loopholes. That's the thing. You can't just make up laws or rule a judgment in someone's favor. It has to make sense legally. So all those documents that you see, it's not necessarily trying to find loopholes, ways that can exploit the law. You can't just make something up. It has to make sense.
Have you seen the Netflix series When They See Us?
No, I don't think I have.
It's about three boys who were sent to prison for raping a girl, and they were there for like 40 years or 30 years, I can't remember, or 20 years. And after this duration, they realized they were innocent, and the state had to settle them monetarily. I think they gave them $10 million each. I can't remember the exact amount. So now, in such cases, because you say that whatever you are ruling should make sense according to the law. So everything they were passing actually did make sense according to the law. Because such errors, how are they made? Because if you're actually making sense according to the law, where
Again, sometimes such errors. I know of an instance where the wrong person was convicted because they shared the same name, but the person that was convicted was black, and the person that was wrongly convicted was black, and the actual perpetrator was white. So there's an issue. There's this racial bias. I'm not sure of the exact
Yes,
facts
he
of
was
this.
black too, so that was one
So
factor.
there's bias playing in. Even though you're convicting them, it has to make sense. For instance, oh, what time, where was that person when the case occurred? This and that and that and this. And biases do play into fact, but essentially it has to tally
Add
up in
up,
some way,
yeah.
add up.
Let me answer that question. Does it mean that bias, because bias is kind of hatred towards this other people,
Not
right?
hatred.
In the case of the black and white people, like the judges and the lawyers, they genuinely distaste these black guys. So when you're biased, do you see all the loopholes faster, or every legal way you can use to crucify this guy, this innocent guy, faster?
That's why we said earlier that if you feel that there will be any form of bias, then you disregard the case.
Yeah.
You're not meant to take up the case. So, if for any reason you take up a case that you have an interest in, then you're liable to, what you have done and maybe possibly the wrong conviction that you have.
And to add to that, humans have a fantastic ability of making things make sense from their own perspective.
Yes.
We saw
It's
random
called
stars.
confabulation.
Confirmation bias. We saw random stars and we assign constellations to them because we like to see patterns in the random and obscure. So that's the thing. If you do have a bias, you will see things you can manipulate to make it fit your bias, that tidy little box. So it's all human nature in play,
You know,
unfortunately.
there was a guy who was convicted about 5-10 years ago. He was placed on the death row and he was just executed about 2 weeks ago. And I was reading that his case was being dragged and dragged and dragged. And at some point, back to you say that you should not take the case if you're gonna have a perceived bias.
Yeah.
That even the judges had to remove some of the lawyers handling the case because they looked too much like him, like they looked like the man because they were both blacks. So they'll have empathy and they are going to ensure that they find every way to make sure that he doesn't end up on the death row, right? So this is just like confirming. If you say don't take the case, there are more whites. If you use in America, for example, there are more whites than blacks, and there are more white lawyers than blacks, but there are more white people educated than black people. So when you say don't take the case, then who will take it?
No, someone that does not have interest in the case, there will most definitely be, there are a lot of judges, right? So if somebody does not take the case, there would most definitely be another person that does not have interest in that case.
And even though it's, I think, nice to say, humans, we don't have the ability to see that we're biased. So someone won't be able to tell that I'm biased or I'm this and that. I think in that instance, it's a little bit messy, or it's for America has a jury system. That would not be feasible to apply in Nigeria.
What's a jury
at all.
system?
Essentially, it's where in some cases, specific cases, it's for the jury. That's a group of people that have jury duty appointed, just masses. Everyone has jury duty that are to decide on the case. They're presented with the facts, evidence, all of that.
Oh,
They're
they
supposed to
did
do
that to this guy that built the atomic bomb. What's his name? You didn't see the movie? It was recent.
Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer. They consulted the jury to handle his case, but the jury system is kind of dangerous because sometimes all of you can be biased and want to crucify.
And you can use ethos, that's emotion, a lot of emotion to sway the jury. It's more difficult to sway a judge with emotion because they're experienced and learned, but when you're average layman, you can easily like, oh, would you kill him? He has a daughter.
Because that experience is not there.
Okay, so let's talk about your future aspirations. So, what are your personal goals within the legal field? Are you interested in constitutional law, human rights,
I would
corporate
say
law?
it's ironic because we're talking about this, but in reality, I don't wish to practice law. When I say practice law, I don't wish to.
In the courts.
Yes. So I would want to go into the public international field. That has always been my dream. Aside, like, yes, I would have my law degree, but I'll take a second degree in perhaps maybe like international relations or international
What does that mean?
law.
Public international field.
International law is under public international law because it deals with like the public. It's not private. Like law is divided into public, private. So there are subsets that are under the public and private. International law is under the public.
So you'd like to be a diplomat?
Yeah, not a diplomat per se, but yes, we could
Like
say so.
Dimfe? What's the difference between a diplomat? Yeah, that's a diplomat because I'm looking at all these guys, international relations, the guys who are put to kind of make the relationship between two countries better. For example, now, so that Palestine is a real country, well, we could say that So I'm trying to say what the
Akachuku, don't go there. Moving on.
okay, I'm trying to say okay, what I'm trying to say according to international law, it's not a real country.
Don't go there. Moving on.
Let's just put it that way. Okay, I'm trying to see what the Palestinian ambassadors and the Israeli ambassadors how they are good. So that's where I'm.
Not an ambassador per se, but in the legal field, like yes, I would go diverge into like the whole international law, international relations things, but I would still apply my legal degree. So I'm not per se like being a diplomat.
I want to know what that degree entails. Like what's your job? What's your function? What do you do with countries?
What do I do in countries?
I think not just in countries, but in legislation. You have that experience. I know in the corporate world, lawyers are essentially, I think, important because you can help them decide on corporate policies and contracts and all of that drafting. That's something the degree would.
So do you mean that you can, if someone started a business in Nigeria and American, that's where you come in, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Like the corporate field, also in line with the corporate field, organizations, international bodies, stuff like that.
Drafting
That's a money in
treaties.
that
Yes,
field.
exactly.
In my course, Philosophy 200, Ethics and Leadership, I recently presented a topic, the ethics in globalization, basically, something like that, not the person. But then I raised a point and I stated this. What would you do in a situation where, because in America, for example, some, they have a no bribe policy. Nigeria is a community or society that's being run by bribes. And you're American and you have to come establish a company in Nigeria. And you must pay that bribe to the king or whoever to establish a business. And your company says, and your company slash country has a policy, no bribe. As an international lawyer, they have. How do you?
To clarify on that, it's interesting how we see America or other countries as this
No,
unfallible.
yeah.
No, they do have a bribe policy. It's just not
It's
as
just not as
open
bad as
Nigeria. Their systems work, even though all these things exist. I think there was the recent Harvard case of admissions not being based off of merit, but family donations. For instance, a legacy family donate a building and that would influence the admission board, but I digress. Yes, bribery does exist. I don't think I've seen any company where if they had to pay that would not. It's just more hush hush in some countries like Nigeria.
So you, what are your personal goals?
The personal goals, like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. I was born talking.
No, I mean like in law, as pertains to law.
That's the thing. It's I want to go into the oil and gas sector. And then
Because I
after
have big
that,
dreams.
yes, I do.
To grab money.
I want to practice law. I would like to be
In the law? In the court?
In the court systems. I was born talking. I want to argue and defend and fight for people. And after that, as I'm taking a master's in oil and gas, I intend to take a master's in agricultural law because I want to dabble into agronomy, agriculture. It's something I've been passionate about since I was 6 years old. I've been growing and gardening, and so that's something I want to go into alongside my law degree.
I noticed that the two angles, the two areas you guys mentioned are areas where there's serious money. You didn't mention human rights because there's no money there. Or constitutional law and all those reforms. You mentioned the part where
You can do more help if you can give more help if you're in a privileged position enough that you can. What I intend to do now with me going into agriculture, I've noticed in Nigeria a huge issue is food insecurity. It absolutely hurts me to degrees you don't know. There are better systems for farming, better ways of agriculture, permaculture, just other systems you can utilize, water management resources. These are things I want to change, and this is something I'm passionate enough and I believe I can do more for. People are hungry, they're starving, they're dying. There are better ways of doing this.
And you mentioned nobody said anything regarding human rights. For me, it's intertwined because I mean, if you're going into international law, you more or less have to deal with human rights. So it's like that's the thing. The subsets under law are like intertwined. Like you can't really focus on a particular aspect. Like regardless, you would have to dabble into different other aspects.
And disregard it. I think people feel you have to do human rights law specifically. You can help more if you are in a privileged position enough that you can actually give back. Me wanting to be part of the court system. It's I want to defend people. I want to be in a position where I can pick and choose who I defend, where I don't have to, like you mentioned, go after that 110 million because my son needs a heart surgery. I want to defend people who
So you
are
have to be
actually
financially
voiceless.
stable first
You
before
have to
you
be,
can.
do that, and you can give back in other ways. Studying law doesn't mean you can't do other things. You can be a photographer. You can be an You can be a farmer. You can give back in your own ways.
And I would say that was one of the reasons why I chose study because they're very versatile. Because you have lawyers that are actors, you have lawyers that are musicians. Like it's very broad. You can study law and still do many other things.
I have lawyers that study law because their parents say you must study law.
Yeah, but law spans across.
You have lawyers that study law because their parents say you must study law.
You're right. And for them, I hope that they can mix law in with whatever it is they're passionate. Law spans across every field of humanity. Everything you look into, there is an aspect of law there. And if you can find something you're passionate about, I think that is something worth fighting for. That's something worth aspiring towards.
Oh, so Radiyah, where do you picture yourself in your career a decade from now? As a 2034.
Yes, it still falls back in line with what I wish to do, which is go into the like international field. So yeah, probably working in like an international organization, signing treaties and all of that. Going into the corporate field, it doesn't even necessarily have to be just international. Anything corporate could be business law, could be human rights, anything at all. But yeah, more in line with the corporate field.
Any plan B in case that doesn't go as you envision?
Plan B for like aside law.
No, aside the international.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't specifically have to be international law. It could be the corporate field. The corporate field is very broad. Like there are different things to it. It could be business, as I said. It could be human rights. It could be anything at all.
Bilkisu already has a plan B for oil and gas isn't going as smooth as she just
Yeah,
go to
sure,
court.
yeah.
No, those are intertwined. Those are, as I'm pursuing oil and gas, agriculture is coming in. My whole thing with law is I want to do something that matters. I
Could
want
even
to.
go into the oil and gas as well.
I mean, you're welcome to. It's.
So no plans on getting to academia to influence the next future lawyers to
I think that's
you don't
a
admire
no,
admire your
that's-
professors enough?
No, I do have so much respect for what they're doing. Make no mistake. What they're doing, I have so much respect for. But I think as a person, I cannot or will not be able to contribute in academia as much as I can in other fields. I mentioned that YouTube channel regarding law. That's something I want to start up. Law fascinates me. Learn about interesting facts, your rights. Give back in a way you can. It doesn't have to be specifically. Some of our mates actually want to enter academia. And for that, I applaud them. It is a noble profession.
Yeah,
I don't think that
it
aligns
takes
with what I
a
want.
lot, yeah.
It does.
So Radiyah, would you like to go into policy, changing the laws? Is this something you're interested in?
Bilkisu mentioned that the judicial system has nothing to do with making laws. It's more of interpreting.
So what does policy entail? Example, give me a random policy that impacts lives that you can get into in future. Just give me a random
That's
policy.
what I'm saying. That's not in line with what I'm doing. Policy making has to do with like the legislative and they're the ones that make the laws, they're the ones that, create the laws. What I am supposed to do is just interpret the laws, which I personally believe that I would not go into that. Right.
Yeah, but the people who make the laws, that's the senators, right? They consult lawyers before they.
In regards to that, I do want to go into legislation. I'm not into politics. That's not something I want to touch. Maybe an advisor to this. Something I can do to help in some way. There are better ways to implement laws. There are better ways to craft policies, having the people in mind. That's the role I want to play. I don't necessarily want to be the minister or the senator, this and that. No.
But just to be like the back.
Just playing a significant role, but not at the forefront of it all. Because politics is messy.
You like to get into lawmaking too.
Not lawmaking per se, but an advisor to this, to this, to that, to this, to that, just complement to the system already
Not
that I
at
can
the
impact.
forefront.
Okay, so apart from the YouTube plans, how do you aim to influence the next generation of lawyers? Because you have a role to, you have to give back.
You're absolutely right. My whole, as a person, I want to do something that matters. I want to create a change or just be remembered for the things I did. I don't want to have been in AUN or Nigeria or in the world and be forgotten. I don't want to be a John Doe, another faceless entity.
John Doe is forgotten.
Yes, no, just no John
pseudonym.
Doe. Yeah, a pseudonym for just your basic person, essentially. It's just another faceless entity forgotten by the archives of history. How I will go about that, I think, like you said, life is unpredictable. Other things come and go. I want to do public speaking, go into that through different avenues, agriculture, just change in whatever area I touch in. When I give myself completely. I'm in a lot of clubs, a lot of clubs, and stars, for instance, that's something I want to reach out. The SOP, the SDRC, all these things. I can change and have impact here and there, even if it's on campus. If someone is interested in what I'm doing or what we are doing collectively, it's come join us. There's a place for you, or you can also learn from this.
You're really passionate about this agriculture. What do you think about? I think was it Tinubu or Buhari that said that the cows are citizens.
I'm Fulani, so yes, I agree. I'm sorry, I'm Fulani.
I've noticed most people who watch my videos they are not subscribed to this channel. Subscribe so we can grow this tribe together.
I think it's the Fulani person in me, but I just love animals as a whole. I also grew up in a family. My dad would come home, because he travels a lot. He would come home and there'd be a tractor, and 3 cows would come out of the tractor. He would come home, open his boot, and there'd be like 2 geese. Open his boot, there'd be like 50 pigeons. So I'm just used to like taking care of animals. Animals are always there.
And killing them to chop.
And very
Well, what I wrote about the citizens and the cows is this. Now, agriculture is suffering in Nigeria because farmers cannot go to their farm confidently and farm and not being threatened to be killed by the herdsmen.
I'm
And
so happy you said that. That's something I've been thinking about because there are no dedicated pasture regions or pasture areas in Nigeria. You can have the reasons why these cows or the farmers are taking the cows to other farms is because climate change. Their grazing grounds are being impacted. They can't get the grasses they need. So what you can do is Adamawa is a really vast, wide region. There's so much space. Dedicate a large portion of it. Plant native grasses and plants that are self-sustaining. Have the farmers go there, redirect their attention somewhere else because you can't just segregate them and expect them to do well. It's not fair on the farmers.
wait, do you know the science and the idea behind nomadic farming?
Yeah.
Because you cannot get all the nutrients you want in this particular land.
The Fulanis are nomadic because of their history. Go from place to place and place to place to place to place. Why they're being nomadic, essentially, why they're moving here, is because they are not getting it, like you said. So self-sustaining plants, native plants. The reasons why they're not getting the nutrients they need is because of climate change. Things are dying, weather patterns are changing. Even in Yola, my great grandmother said this was last semester was the worst heat wave she had ever experienced in her 82 years
Your
of life.
great grandmother.
Yes, she's still alive.
82.
Yes.
My grandfather is 104. She married so early.
Well,
Wow.
in her 82 years of living. So it's all of that. It all ties back in. Give them, I think, a system that works. Because America does it, although on a private scale. The government can have a hand. I can have a hand. Private entities can have a hand in that. Create pasture regions, segregate them off from farmers. Farmers need their own systems because even the way they're growing things, it's not sustainable or not sustainable. It's not efficient. You have that millions of metric tons of cassava wasting because the production regions are not the production lines are not in line with the supply lines. You have like farmers millions of miles away from the suppliers and processors, and the roads are bad. Just bring them closer together. Fence it out, give them plants, better GMO production, all of that. There's better things you can do.
And there are very, very terrible storage facilities in Nigeria. We don't even have like freezers where we can. I heard that tomato wastage was at a high, like the max last year.
All the like processing plants are in the cities, and all the producers are
And the
in
rural
the
areas.
rural areas, and the roads are bad. And if you just bring them closer together, or you fix the roads, or you just have this one little thing, you can make it so much better.
Okay, let's get to the next stage. The challenges of studying law and how it's helped you grow studying in AUN. So, what has been the most difficult part of studying law in AUN, and how has it helped you grow, especially the sufferings and the struggles? Because here is a very high pressure environment. Yeah, so
I would say the most challenging aspects of me studying law in AUN is the workload. The workload is a lot. The assignments are a lot. The periods we have exams, like there's a whole lot of reading and there's a lot of dedication that comes with it. But I feel like it has built me in a different type of way because back then if you had told me like prior before like I came to AUN, if you had told me like, oh, I would be this dedicated to doing things or I would be able to tolerate this workload, I would have told you no. Because
we're killing it in primary school and secondary school.
but it wasn't this much. The standard in AUN is high. It's a lot to keep up with. So yes, fine, yes, I was doing it then, but I did not expect this amount of workload. So coming here and seeing these things was like an eye opener. So I knew that I needed to like
Step up your game.
exactly. I knew that I needed to step up and all of that. So yes, I feel like it has built me differently, and I feel like there's nowhere I would go to that I will not be able to adapt.
Yeah. So, and that thing, why is it that on the present list there are so many law students? Why?
There's so many
Law
law
students.
students.
Why?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know.
Maybe because, like you mentioned, the workload, you adapt or die.
So they don't have workload.
No, not necessarily.
department.
But 2,000 word, 2,500 word assignments.
By philosophy, they give you 3,000 words.
No, I know, but you're doing that twice a semester, multiple midterms, multiple these things, and it's the standard is high. Exams are 60% of your grade, not 40. So you have to do
You
well
don't
there.
have the whole 10% attendance.
You don't
get
do any
extra
of
10
that.
marks.
You do your
put in
exams,
the
you do
work.
your midterms, you do
Yes.
that is all.
Let me tell you what my dad said. My dad was like, why is that even law students are shining, but when they go out there, actually when they write the bar exams, they're not among the top 10, the top 20. Why? Why are we not flooding the chart nationally? Why? Like, as if we are local champions. So, see the dynamic now.
Good point. I think, again, I don't know about the bar exams, but something I enjoy about AUN is that it's very flexible in that you can do anything. For instance, us coming here to the CMD lab to shoot a podcast. Many universities wouldn't do that. I think the problem is that some law students limit themselves in the sense that it has to be law I'm studying or only law. It's like, let me just get this good grade, let me do this and pass and pass. They're just doing it to pass. They're not enjoying it, they're not passionate about it. And so you're getting good grades because you have to. A 95 is an A. You need that A. You're getting good grades because you have to. But once you're out there and you don't have that motivating you or that drive, the standard drops and you dip as well.
So how do you cope with the pressure?
I think for me, the pressure isn't academic, more extracurricular. Most of the pressure I face, it's academically. I'm enjoying this. I really, really am. I'm enjoying the whole learning process and everything.
We all see it.
Most of it is extracurricular. If I could tell myself one thing, I think it would be slow down. I'm doing a lot. Exec in multiple clubs and this and that. And I want to give everything I possibly can to everything I do. So, and this is affecting me academically because I don't have time to focus on this or focus on that. And I think most of the pressure I face, like I said, is extracurricular. I have club activities to plan and it has to be amazing. I have a high standard for myself. It has to be amazing. It must be long reaching. It must be sustainable. There must be some growth range. We're doing E&E at T201 course right now where we set up a business. It's late in the
I told you a
semester.
faster way to go about it.
You did. I should have. I'll share the real
Please don't
video.
say the camera.
Let me on and
Please don't say
no.
Please don't say the after we'll talk about it.
But yeah, so there's just so much stress and you can't give because law is demanding. And if you cannot give everything or if you don't have the time to sit down at least 4 hours a day to dedicate yourself to this, you're going to start to fall behind. And so it's, for me, how this has helped is it's just forced me to continuously adapt and evolve and get better. It's a mentality of whether I like it or not, I have to do it.
But how do you unwind? Like, you're swimming, you go do makeup. How do you cool off?
I haven't been able to unwind in a few days. I wake up tense and anxious.
For real?
No, that's the past few days. But after some time, I just watch anime. I don't like not doing anything. I don't like not being busy. I don't like that as a person. So a full day of doing nothing doesn't really help.
How do you unwind? Ice cream?
Oh, no, not exactly. I sleep a lot. It's very funny that as a law student, I sleep a lot, but I sleep a lot. I'm the type of person that when I get overwhelmed, regardless of whatever that I need to do, I drop it and rest because I just feel like I need to clear out my head. I need to be in the right space to, do. And so, yes, whenever it gets tough, I sleep. I sleep a whole lot. Aside sleeping, in my free time, I write poems.
Yeah, she's a poet. You're in poetry club, right?
Yeah, but I'm not active.
Yeah.
I'm not active. But I write poems. I
Recite one of your poems for us.
I wouldn't know often. I have them in
The
my
first
notes.
2 lines. Any line you remember at all, any of your poems.
I'm sorry, I cannot. I don't know them often. But I can recite it for you. They're on my phone. Yeah, I have them in my notes.
So what do you write about? Like, what's in love? Suffering?
Anything at all, anything that I think of, anything that comes to my mind. I wrote this poem in Dr. Agatha's class, and I think that would be like the best one I've written. It's about my mom.
Oh,
It's
my madre.
it's about my mom. So yes, I think I would read it to you guys after the podcast.
So there's no specific genre you gravitate towards?
No, there's no specific genre. I write about anything. Could be nature, could be love, could be anything. I feel at that time is what I read. I read as well. Um, I'm high on self care as well. When I get tensed, I'm doing my skincare or my hair care or something just to make me feel like in a better space because it gets tough. And as Bilkisu said, like I'm not so involved in like extracurricular activities, but I feel like this semester has been
You
the
pushed
most.
yourself, yeah.
Yes.
It's all high the mental health.
This semester has been the most that I have done so much, and it's a lot. I would say that it's a lot. It's hard, like balancing
Academics.
yes, but more often than not, I just have to tell myself that I need to slow down. I need to calm down.
The way you're going to bed is you feel it.
Exactly. That's how it feels. I'm doing a lot this semester. Probably not as much as with you, but on my path, it's a lot.
So, do you feel there's a need for more support of Nigerian law students, actually by the government? Like, is there any angle you feel more resources should be enacted, should be more dispersed, as pertains to law, particularly in Nigeria?
Okay, I wouldn't say I can only speak on what I'm experiencing because I'm in AU and I don't know what is
In
happening
the public
outside
school.
of exactly. I don't know, so I can't really say much. But in terms of AU, and I feel like we're getting quality education. We have, if not the best instructors that I can see that they're putting in the effort.
Everything.
I've had conversations with multiple like of our instructors, and they tell me like I can see the experience that they have. I can see like how professional they are. So yes, I would say AUN provides like the right resources, be it slides, books, textbooks, and all of that. But I can't speak on behalf of other universities because I do not know what goes on there.
Can you talk about that? If you have cousins in.
No, like she said, I can't speak on other universities. And what I'm going to touch on isn't necessarily something the government can do, but all reforms around teaching. I've noticed that in Nigeria, a huge issue is garbage in, garbage out. You learn something and you give them back exactly. There's no processing of information. There's no critical thinking or anything. I think that's a problem because as lawyers, once you learn the basic principles, they're not on an exam paper. They're not supposed to ask you what is contract law
Yes,
or what are the basic principles of
They're all
contract.
applied
That's no.
questions.
You need problem questions. I think there needs to be a change, a shift in our teaching from garbage in, garbage out to more critical questions, more problem questions. Make them think. You've taught them the basics, give them a case. Have them solve it, have them figure it out, find loopholes. I think that's a better way to teach.
But how do you know it's not done? Because you know the one that I think Nigerian law school is being what's the body like how other people are being guided by ASU.
Lawson.
So
Lawson.
don't you think there's a general principle that is taken nationwide?
Just because problem with law is the whole culture of law. Just because something is ancient and has been done for a long time doesn't mean it's the best way. That's
No,
unfortunate.
I mean like the problem question you talked about. Don't you think that's already a
It is,
practice?
but it's no.
And that has been published by the law sign has been said you have to do it this way.
Not in the university setting. What they do is once they come in, read from their slides or like dictate, you take the notes, you go back, exam paper, it's this and that and that. You're not interacting with the material. You're reading to pass, not to understand, not because you enjoy it. And so you're not finding those loopholes. You're not being creative about it. You're not actually doing what a lawyer would honestly do. It's like primary school. What is education? What is food? Food is about just
eat or drink to nourish our body.
overly complex lingo that is not necessary. I think that's a problem.
And I think this is the advantage of EUN. I keep telling everyone,
Yeah.
EUN is a genuine liberal arts system. I've never ever tried to cram anything before. I understand the subject from the roots and I apply it in every way I can, give examples. I asked a student some weeks ago, she had last semester, I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I just asked this question so I can assess how much they've enjoyed the institution and if it's by their own doing or probably environment influenced it. So I asked her on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience so far in EUN? She told me an 8. Like, so what happened to the remaining 2? She told me, well, she regrets not knowing and embodying her coursework. And she was just busy cramming all along and spitting it back. That now she's now trying to be more practical and embody
That's
these
why
things.
I'm glad that like the law school in AUN, they're starting to like I don't know, this administration, they're doing really well on like moot courts, clinics, tutorials, because this is the practical aspect of law. This is what you're going to be practicing. As Bilkisu said, nobody is going to be asking you what is a contract, what is this and that. But so it's up to you as an individual if you want to turn
participate.
up. Exactly. If you want to participate in these things, if you choose not to participate, it might
That's on
affect
you.
you in the long run. So yes.
So, what advice would you give to other young women who were aspiring to study law?
I would say it's I would not sugarcoat and say it's easy. It's a lot of work. There needs to be dedication, there needs to be hard work. But I mean, when you when you see the positive result of what you have done, there's this satisfaction that comes with it. And if you feel that it's something that you really want to go for, do not instill any type of fear in you that, oh, you would not be able to do it. I mean, if I can do it, then you can possibly do it as well. So yes, it's just a thing of, making up your mind, going for it, putting in the hard work. Because I mean, you cannot see positive results if you do not put in the hard work and dedication to it.
Okay, so Bilkisu.
I think to add to that, it's you need audacity. You need confidence. You need to be able, especially in the law, you need to be bold. I think it's something I had to relearn coming into it. It's you need to be able to advocate for yourself, to speak, to fight, to not be afraid to hear your own voice. In class, in primary school, secondary school, where you would talk, ask questions, they'd be like, oh, over sabi.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You have to be willing to raise your hand up and ask the stupid question. No one will laugh.
That's the only way you would learn.
Not just that, it's you need confidence.
Yes.
You need that. You must be bold, and when you walk, you must walk with purpose. And I think do it. It's not as difficult. It's difficult. It's tasking.
Yeah.
But you can do it.
I tell my brother when you want to walk, chest out, you open your shoulders. I have a picture of my wallpaper on my desktop in my room. Whenever people come to see, they always like take pictures. It was a Jabi, so I went for a dance workout, and after I just like a soldier at the close to the lake, and someone took me a shot. And that looks like a strong man. I look at that picture every day. So, that's aspect you mentioned, walk, because when you people that walk, they're not confident in themselves.
Walk with purpose.
Well, because it embodies lots of what she says, so it's not just what would you have done differently if you go back to your first year?
I think I'll tell myself to slow down. Like Radiyah mentioned, I have time. You honestly have time. Take your time, slow down, and it's university. I think enjoy it as much as you possibly can. Make friends. I think here in AUN, I am grateful because I know what people are like in Nile. I love the people here at AUN. They're friendly, they're warm, they're inviting, and it's take your time, slow down, and just make friends. Enjoy the process. And I think don't try to cram. Because I came in from secondary school, that's what it's understand. You'll be fine. You will honestly be fine, and don't panic. Because I tend to do that a bit.
What would you have done differently, Radiyah?
I honestly don't think there's anything I've happened differently.
Wow, not many people will say this. Wow.
I believe everything that happened to me then happened for a reason, and it made me stronger. It made me perceive life differently. It made me see things differently. And one thing I'm glad is I got to, as Bilkisu said, I got to make friends, and I know that I'm not alone in this. Like we're moving together. Even as like it gets tough, like while studying and all of that. I have people around me that I'm doing this with, and I mean it's easier when you do like group study with people because you rub minds, you hear, because that's the thing, you can't be an island while studying law. You most definitely don't know everything. You would need to hear opinions of people and all of that. So I'm glad that yes, I did find my people that like we would go through this together. And yes, so I don't think there's anything I would necessarily change.
That's very impressive. For me, group study is so stressful because I'm the one that ends up teaching everyone.
No, when I mean group study, I study individually, but I still need to hear the opinions of other people because I don't know everything. There might be like somebody would say something and be like, I did not even think of that. And I mean, I remember it properly and then, write it and all of that. So it helps.
And I think even though you're teaching people, I think it's helpful. You solidify information that you know.
Yeah, it's true. The more you take, the more you know. So, because what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind? Not just at AUN, but also at the Nigerian law body, and in the future, probably internationally. But let's start with AUN, then law body in Nigeria, then internationally. What kind of legacy do you hope to leave?
I want to do something that matters. I want to inspire and instill change. In terms of legacy, I think the nitty-gritty of it is irrelevant because life those different things that creates when I die or if I move on. I think in different aspects of my life, I want to be known as someone who stood firm by her values, who had faith in what she did, and who did what needed to be done, regardless, who could rise to the occasion, who inspired, and who changed, who did something that mattered.
So AUN, Nigerian legal law,
and in the international community as a whole.
You?
Okay, I would say I want to stand out. I want to be known to be different, to have done something.
To be accomplished daughter.
I want to be different. I want, like, when someone mentions my name, I want nothing but good things to be said. Like, oh, this person made a positive impact. This person made a significant impact, like, in the community, no matter how little it can be, no matter the little effort that I put. Like, I just want to stand out and, in AUM, Nigeria, beyond.
I've noticed most people who watch my videos, they are not subscribed to this channel. Subscribe so we can grow this tribe together. And you are already standing out. You both are already standing out. And that's why I'm featuring them, So, this is the last question, Bilkisu and Radiyah. If you could sum up your mission in law school with just one phrase or one sentence, what would it be?
I think may our desire to see a better world drive our actions towards change.
May our desire to see a better world drive our actions towards change. Yes. What would your phrase be? The poet, Radiyah.
Am I experiencing writer's block? Does it have to be a phrase or it could just be a word?
One phrase, sentence. Word won't be heavy enough, I feel.
I can't think of anything.
How about the point you wrote to your mom? Let's take a one line from there.
I would say I hope to strive for the best always.
Thank you for being my podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
This was nice. Thank you for having us.
Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening. Do have a great one.